This episode is brought to you by Cellular Performance Institute. Is your body beat up and broken down? Look into stem cells today. It could change your life. Go to cellularperformanceinstitute.com. For all you see you there. Join Sam Tripoli and I on the road for Tinfoil Hat Comedy, July 18th and 19th in San Diego, August 1st in Boston, August 2nd in Connecticut, October 10th in Tulsa, October 11th in Oklahoma City. Go to samtripoli.com for tickets. See you on the road. I can't believe I won. CRROW777. What's up, Crow?
Hey, man. Thanks so much for having me back.
It's been a while. What did we talk about last time?
It's been such a while that I don't even really recall.
Yeah, me neither. It's something about the moon. You had legendary footage of the moon with what was that called? The
lunar wave, yeah.
Yeah, the lunar wave. Do you have any new shots of the lunar wave?
No, I've been totally concentrating on the sun. And by the way, over this last week, many people filmed what I'm calling the second sun. I'm of a mind our sun has a binary that we have not been told about. I first filmed it in 2015, and people all over the world got shots of it this past week.
Now you're talking about what do you mean a second sun? Like two?
I want to ask Rose, do we have anything, and we probably don't have the imagery. Yeah, there's a binary to our sun, which is a little bit smaller. I've only had scant few chances to record it. I saved up and got the giant solar telescope that I'm using now that shoots in hydrogen alpha. And I'm of a mind that it's probably going to become more and more visible till it's with us all the time, and there's no denying it.
Damn. That's huge. A second sun. That's insane.
I have footage of it. I think didn't Rose give you access to shoot the moon?
She gave me access. I've seen some of the sun footage, but I thought that was just the regular sun, like our sun. I didn't know it was the second sun.
So at the end of Shoot the Moon, and I almost didn't do it, when I released the lunar wave footage, all hell broke loose and my life spun for like 2-3 years. It got so crazy. So when I discovered the other body, well, at first I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at, to be honest with you. But when I finally did release it in 2016, I did it very low key. But when we put out the film, Shoot the Moon, which all the members at CRROW777radio.com can stream anytime they want, it's got 10 awards in the world. I included that initial discovery footage at the end of that film.
Yeah, you know what? I do remember shots. I mean, I'm sent stuff all the time. I do remember... I've heard the theory of the second moon and maybe some footage, but I don't remember seeing anything that just made me think it was like real 1,000,000%. Like I'm open to everything.
It's 1,000,000%. The only thing that is not 1,000,000%, I'm calling it a second sun, doesn't mean I'm right, but there is a body there. It's undeniable.
Can we see that? Rose, can you pull that up?
I'm not sure if she's got footage, but actually, Rose, are you aware of the people who have sent us footage and posted on like TikTok and YouTube at all? Give her a minute to look.
I have seen video of like the sun up in one part of the sky, and then the camera moves, and they go, "Yo, what is that? That's another sun." I have seen video clips of that, but it's with AI and everything. It's hard to.
So let me wet your whistle here. I'm of a mind that the MasterCard logo is poking us in the eye because that's just what it looks like. The sun we used to refer to it as yellow, though it looks so pale now. But the other one's usually red, a pale red. When Luke was on Tatooine in Star Wars and he's got the two suns behind him, that's exactly what it looks like. The film 2001: A Space Odyssey, which they made to try to convince us the moon landing was real, there's a sequel to that film called 2010, I think it's called. And in 2010, at the very end, the star gives a speech about how his children will grow up in a world with two suns.
So what are we looking at here, Rose?
This is the 5 minute video, or sorry, 4 minute and 16 minute video that we shared after episode 150, after Crow realized that he captured the second sun, and another telescope astronomer captured the same thing. And so this is the footage that Crow captured if you want to see his actual footage.
Yes, let's see it. I want to see all the
You
good
can
stuff.
kill the audio on that clip, Rose. The other astronomer is from the SLU Observatory. He's live streaming for children to show the transit of Mercury across the sun. His problem is the second sun is so close to the sun, he can't get it out of frame. So eventually he says, y'all wondering what that other thing is? Well, that's our second sun. NASA doesn't want you to know about it.
Okay, so
That's our sun. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll narrate. That's the sun we see with our eyes. Now I'm panning. That's lens flare. That's lens flare. Up, see the top of the, watch the top of the frame. See it going by up there? There's another object. And that's lens flare. That's the sun we see with our eyes every day. I'm still moving around trying to figure out what incarnation. There it is, coming into view. And there it is. And it almost feels like it's outside the firmament. Now, I did not have really high-end solar tools when I filmed this, but I do now. So if I can get an opportunity like I had then, now we'll know some things. But there it is. There's the binary to our sun, which I accept currently is the reason consciousness is lifting all over the world, because it's coming closer to us again.
and in what way do you see consciousness lifting? You think like people are awakening to like what? Like how do you measure that?
You notice a lot of people these days, like back when 2001 happened, how many people were asleep at the wheel? There's not a lot of people have woken up from that particular dream. They're waking up. Here's an example. It's not just us, it's all life. Can you imagine if in 1970 someone filmed a bulldog grabbing a skateboard and jumping into a pool and riding it? Well, we see that now.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen a bulldog use a skateboard like it's supposed to? Their consciousness is lifting as well.
Yeah. I love those videos. The dogs that are skateboarding, or that's insane.
If they did that in the 70s, that would have been the most famous dog in the world.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Now, what are we looking at here? Is this
So this is footage from my current 130 millimeter hydrogen alpha telescope. This is a looping prominence that shows the electromagnetic nature of the sun. I do not accept that it's a nuclear furnace at all. I'm very closely aligned with what Eric Dollard says about the sun. In my view, you're looking at an outer shell here. In my view, the energy that is being powered is not from a nuclear furnace inside this thing. It's pulling the energy from so-called counter space. But you can see the magnetic loops.
What would NASA call that? They would call that a solar flare? Or coronal?
It's a prominence. The typical term is a prominence. Now, if you saw like the wavy lines on the face, they call that a filament, but a filament is just a prominence at a different angle. So it would be typically called a prominence. If there was a big explosion, they might call it a CME or, coronal mass ejection, something like that. Now, that dark spot is actually a prominence in a different view looking down on it. It's called a filament. And you can see how it connects to the prominence up top at the beginning of this.
What is the sun? It's so mysterious. I mean, to me, if someone asked me what the sun is, I would just say it's some kind of electromagnetic luminary.
I like the way you described that. Most people would say it's a nuclear furnace because that's what they've been told. I like the way you described that all the way.
It's got to be some kind of like electric. It's got to be some kind of. It just seems like when you look at what we know for sure, we know that there's a super electromagnetic force in the North Pole, and that would be in the center of this circular lake that we probably live in. But whatever, we just know that there's some kind of magnetic force in the North Pole All our compasses point to it. And then when you look at the sun, the moon, and the stars, they all rotate around the center of that electromagnetic force. So it's not like the sun and the moon and the stars are all floating randomly in different directions. They're all connected by one force. And it's like we're like in an electromagnetic machine, like a clock. And we're probably part of it. We're probably like the nanobots of this gigantic clock. And
Well,
so it's got to be some kind of electromagnetic force that is holding the stars, the moon, the sun all together and making it rotate around the center of it, where in the North Pole.
Eric Dollard described the sun as a converter, and I agree with him. I was using different language, but converter is a better word. I was trying to use car parts to describe. Eric Dollard's about as smart a guy you're ever going to meet when you're talking about electricity and things like the sun, and he studied it for a number of years. We just had another highly placed scientist named Jet Blake, which was a pseudonym. He described it as like a fiber optic cable transmitting analog data. It has to, what you're looking at here is conscious, and it has to do with our consciousness. Without the sun, it's not just that we don't have light. We don't have anything we're familiar with. No plants, no nothing. It's our heat, it's our light. It provides for our food sources. It does so much for us. And the problem here is we've been told falsehoods. And a big part of probably why the falsehoods about the sun is because they don't want us anywhere near free energy. And that's going to have to do with electromagnetism. People are just starting to wake up to the fact that if you take one of those little tools that tells you about voltage and you climb up a ladder and turn it on, there's voltage. People are doing electroculture in gardens. We're beginning to realize that we have the ability to harvest free energy right out of the ether around us.
Have you looked into like medieval cathedrals and like all the Tartarian stuff? And people believe that cathedrals and those massive palaces that were like power plants, and they're set up to take, like exactly what you're saying, they're set up to take that. This is what people are theorizing.
Right.
They're saying that somehow these cathedrals with their spires or whatever, I'm no electrician, but somehow it pulls the energy out of the air, the ether.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that this was going on at an earlier time. We did an episode on cathedrals. It was episode 151. Here's the rub. I had been reading some old books about cathedrals and alchemy and stuff, and it was gnawing on me. So I went to go do an episode on cathedrals to tell everybody, if you have information, images, whatever you have on cathedrals, save it, because they're destroying them. Exactly 1 month to the day later, and by the way, Notre Dame was the cathedral I chose to do the episode on, and a month to the day later, Notre Dame burned. But yes, when you get those spires that high off the ground, there is all kinds of voltage that can be harvested up there. When you start talking about resonators with mercury, these things are not just possible, they almost certainly happened. I do take quite a different view on the whole mud flood Tartarian idea, which is why I gave you the episode number 151. But I don't think there's any doubt that in what we were told the Dark Ages, there was a lot more going on than darkness. This image Rose just put up is a close-up of a so-called sunspot. And it's pretty amazing when you animate this out. If you look in the center of the sunspot, you can see it's not just an empty hole. Those little filaments and foculi go around the corner, and you can actually see them flashing down in there if you've got the right day and the right observing conditions. And I am seeking to upgrade a little bit more so I can film what's called the G band and begin to animate what goes on around the sunspots. It's pretty amazing.
Now, what? Now, you said you had a different theory on the mud flood and the Tart. Like, there's quite a few theories. Which one are you leaning towards, and which one do you think
You
is?
know, I'm willing to say this much. I'm glad that people are looking at it because there's clearly problems with the idea that there was this magical dark era and nobody knew anything. And yet these buildings were apparently put together around then or something like that. I don't agree with all the theories I've seen put forward, particularly with global cataclysms, but it doesn't matter. What's important is that people are challenging these ideas that are supposedly unchallengeable. That's what I think is critical. These images she's putting up now are recent, from this year. And
You
the
took
work,
all this. This is your footage.
yeah, this is all my footage.
The eye, stem cells, they could do some wild shit down there.
You know, I got the stem cells in my shoulder. My shoulder was jacked. I went down there, worked, man.
Eric Anders' neck was f***ed up, and then he went down and got stem cell treatment. Now it doesn't bother him at all anymore.
I definitely recommend CPI. It's changed my life. The best stem cell clinic in the world.
I just come and I do stem cells to make sure that I'm resetting my body and staying healthy.
It regenerates tissue, reduces inflammation. The results are amazing.
CPI stem cells is where you want to go. There's no other place in town. They do the best work in the world. I feel incredible.
If there's anything causing you to not live the quality of life that you like, then this investment is more than worth it.
When it comes to the science of stem cells, no one comes close to CPI. There's not even a close second.
For a free doctor call to see if stem cells is the right option for you, visit us at cpistemcells.com.
Wow. Can we get like a picture of what your telescope or your camera looks like? I mean,
Yeah.
you're getting insane shots of the sun.
Rose, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'll just take a second here.
Because I can shoot you one to your phone if you want, but if you're
That
good,
would
you're
be
good.
better.
Can you make that bigger, Rose, or is that as big as it'll be?
I'll try to make it better and text me a picture of your scope.
Okay, I'll text it. If you can make the image bigger, it would be better for people watching Eddie's stuff.
Now, so what you have, you're looking at, what kind of telescope is it? Is there
It's a Lunt
special
100, yeah, it's a Lunt 130 millimeter hydrogen alpha telescope. The manufacturer told me only 3 of them that size have been sold in North America, so I'm fortunate. Okay, here it is. Let me get this off to Rose real quick. All right, that's off to you, Rose.
man, these images are insane.
So let me describe a couple things so people understand why this isn't just your average scope. What this scope does is it grabs a particular frequency or wavelength, which is in the hydrogen alpha area. Hydrogen alpha resides in the very far red area of the visual spectrum. But what you've got to realize is human beings are almost blind. The visual spectrum, or what we can see of the total electromagnetic spectrum, is 0.004%. That's all we can see. Now, within that visual, on the red part of the spectrum is hydrogen alpha. My telescope only lets certain hydrogen alpha waves in while knocking down all the other energy and frequencies, allowing me to tune in on what you're seeing, the details that you're seeing. The sun is so amazing that depending on the wavelength you're looking at, it can look vastly, vastly different. So there's my telescope.
Okay.
On top, the little white box is an auto guider, which they don't make anymore. And the red, you can see what looks like a focus knob. That's actually a tuner for the etalon. The etalon is what lets me tune in on the hydrogen alpha features of the sun. That little red circle right there is the etalon, but there's 2 of them in this image. The black behind it, it's double stacked. There are 2 etalons, but this is the rig.
Wow. You said there's only 3 sold in North America?
They've only sold 3 in North America. Yeah, I had to save up quite a while.
How much do they cost?
A lot.
100,000?
No, not like that.
Okay. like 20, 30,000.
Yeah, well, less than that depending. You could easily get to 20 or 30,000 depending on what you get with it or on it.
Okay. And what else have you, did you point that at the moon? That's not how you got the lunar waves, is it, with this one?
No, the lunar waves I shot with an 8-inch telescope that was made for nighttime. This would see nothing if I pointed it at the nighttime sky. I would have to take the etalons off.
Mm. And but with that telescope, you would be able to, if you made those adjustments, you would be able to get
It is
a new look at the moon, right?
It is a universal telescope. I could remove the etalons and do nighttime work, but to be honest with you, I simply don't have time. Filming the sun is the most difficult thing I've ever done. To get good, I mean, look at the image she's showing you. She just showed you. I mean, it's like a kindergartner took that. And I was trying as hard as I could. This is a year ago. It is so difficult. And now that I'm getting better at it, I'm concentrating all my energy on the sun because I know that the second sun is going to be part of life here in this world, and I want to cover it. It's incredibly important, and it's almost completely unknown. I love this image right here because it shows the filament so well. You can see the prominence there turns into a filament going over the face of the sun. And if you look at the edge or the limb in some of the images, you'll see these little spikes. Those are called spicules, and their lifespan is about 8 minutes, but they dance. And the footage I just edited today, which will go out for members of CRROW777radio.com, is the cleanest animation I've made yet. I call it an animation because what I do is I shoot for 3 hours, and each little video of 500 frames is turned into a single image, and then each of those images laid into a video timeline so you can see the movement. If I don't speed the movement up like 500%, you wouldn't even be able to see the most movement on the sun. When a violent explosion happens, it can happen in just a few seconds or a few minutes, but typically most of the movement is quite slow. So when Rose shows you the animations I've done, I've had to speed things up about 500% or more. That's another sunspot.
It's amazing.
I am completely hooked on filming the sun, and I just can't describe how difficult it is. It's very, very challenging. Part of the problem is with a big telescope, you require what's called good seeing, which is the quality of the air you're looking through, basically. And here where I am, you only get that occasionally, so you're constantly fighting against that. But even when the seeing's not great, some of the stuff I'm able to capture, it's just mind-bending.
Is there a prime time to try to capture the sun, like noon or
Before noon? I try to catch it from about 7 or 8 in the morning up to about solar meridian, which is usually near noon. Because in most places, the seeing gets worse and worse as you go afternoon. Not all places. If you're fortunate and you live in a place where the seeing is good, I'm very envious of you.
Yeah, I wonder what it would look like if you were like in the middle of the desert, because in the desert you could see the stars at night clearly.
For filming the sun, it's not about having a tough time collecting the data because the sun's so bright. It's about having perfect conditions to do it. So
that would be like low humidity.
Yep. You know how when you look down a highway, it's hot and you see that mirage, that wavy mirage?
Yes.
That's what happens up in the atmosphere. And when the seeing's real good, it's stable and clear and see-through, very see-through. But most of the time, the conditions are, like you said, there's humidity, there's temperature changes, and the seeing is not always very good. I love that shot.
Yeah, these are all magnificent.
So my my membership over at CRROW777 Radio wanted me to make the stills available, which I've done. So on the website, I created stills of these that you can print in high resolution, some of them up to 60 or 70 inches wide. And some of my membership has bought them and printed them and put them on their walls and sent me the images. One guy printed it on glass. Stunning.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking they'd make a good album cover.
There you go.
And like tattoos too, you know. Now,
there you go.
How far do you think the sun is? Because I mean, you know, NASA says it's like 93 million miles away. That to me, that's horse shit. There's
same here. It's local
if you had
to us.
Guess, would you
in
3,
the vicinity of the firmament? You know, I think the other object that I'm filming, there's a good chance it's on the other side of the firmament.
What makes you think that the second sun? What makes
because
you think
the times that I've seen it, you can't quite pull it into focus. It's like there's some clear thing in the way. But that's just, you know, I'm speculating until I know more. If I can get my very advanced equipment on it now, which I know I will eventually, and get a couple hours and be able to do everything I want to do. I've got all this planned out, all the tests and the types of shooting I want to do to try to learn. But our sun is here for us, and we are the center. I accept what Tycho Brahe left us. The Earth is the center of everything in our little place in the universe. The sun is not the center of everything. We are. And anyone who's interested in ideas like that, go look up Tycho Brahe.
How do you feel about God?
That's a pretty blunt question. You mean, do I think there's a God? Absolutely, there's a creator.
And what about Jesus?
I was raised Christian, just like everyone else, and I think Jesus was one of the most important spiritual teachers of all time. And I also accept the idea that he put a new frequency or a vibration level for human beings to try to attain that was higher than anyone who had come before him.
Yeah. Recently, I went down a rabbit hole with the Shroud. Mel Gibson was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and you know, everybody knows Mel Gibson, you know, is a hardcore Christian, and they brought up the Shroud, and for me, I never really thought about the Shroud. I just thought, you know, in the 80s, mainstream media was saying the Shroud's fake, it's fake.
Didn't they date it and say it was fake back then?
Yeah. So I didn't even really think about it no more. I'm like, oh, that was fake. I always thought it was fake. But then Mel Gibson brings it up like it's been proven real. And then Joe agrees with him and goes along with it. Like they've found, and I'm like, what? So then I thought, oh my God, that's another thing that I got to go back and reevaluate because.
Did you?
I sure did.
Okay.
I sure did. And man, I believe that Jesus was real. I mean, even atheists that are historians believe he's real. Jew, if he wasn't real, Jews would be all over Jesus is not real. But so Jesus was existed, and the crucifixion existed. The whole part I had trouble wrapping my head around was the resurrection. I'm like, man, I don't know. I mean, I can believe he, you know, the Jews thought he was a powerful prophet, but that he wasn't divine in the sense that he was like part of God or God's son. So I could, that for me was always like, okay, he existed, but maybe he was just this awesome person, but wasn't really the son of God, you know, because the resurrection, that's a hard one to believe. But when you really look into the Shroud, like Jesus Christ, no pun intended, the Shroud is real. And when you look into how studied it was, it's the most studied artifact ever. And even the scientists that won't confirm that it's real, they'll say, we don't know how they faked it. If someone faked it, no one has any idea. It's not paint, it's not ink. They have no idea how this negative image got blasted onto linen, which is photographic. It's I mean, I can go on forever. I've seen many people talk about, the scientists, nuclear engineers. And once you come to grips with the shroud being real, that's the receipt right there. The resurrection really happened. And, I'm in.
How do you feel about reincarnation?
I believe in it. I believe that's possible.
That's not very far off the idea of resurrection.
Yeah. I mean,
I haven't looked, like I told you last time, it was big, and I think it was the 80s, and they were busy trying to defame it, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
With carbon dating and all the other typical
but the
nonsense
latest dating,
that goes on.
Carbon dating is so unreliable. And but that they went by that. They went by, it was dated in the 1400s or 1300s or something like that. It was a medieval hoax, they said. But when you look into how they did the actual carbon dating, there's all these flaws, and you just got to,
If you look into carbon dating and how it's done and really research it, you'll see how unreliable. It's not like when we were in the 80s, we thought, they carbon dated it, they know something. But I mean, back in the 80s, what were we doing? We were watching the news and TV. We hadn't caught on all the way that it's it's a cycle of trying to get you to believe stuff.
Yeah, and carbon dating, they say it's the more or the less, like whatever artifact you have, the less environmental exposure it has. Like if it was sealed, the more reliable the carbon dating could be. But that shroud has been taken out and put on not only has it been taken out hundreds of times and put on display and people grabbing it, that affects carbon dating, but it got lit on fire. It got caught on fire, and then they had to repair it. There was nuns that repaired it, like in the 1500s.
Isn't there a big story around that fire? Isn't it like the whole place burned down, but the shroud survived or something like that?
And a lot of it burned too, and they repaired it. So when they did the carbon dating, like in 1978, they were going to do, they were going to figure it out once and for all how old this thing is. And the plan was to take 3 different pieces of the shroud and take it to 3 independent different labs to do the carbon dating, and not have them communicate at all, just 3 separate independent carbon dating. But what they did was they took a piece out of the corner that was redid. They took a repaired piece and cut it into 3 pieces and it's basically the same piece.
Oh, come on.
The 3 labs. They did it. It's like they did it on purpose.
How could you not know? Those were supposed scientists, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It seemed like if the New York Times and the mainstream media is going to come out and say the shroud is a fake, you got to look into it.
So if I heard you properly, what Joe learned about the shroud turned him on to that spirituality, which he now accepts. And in some ways you did too, because it expanded your spirituality in that regard. Is that true?
Yeah, I was having trouble with the resurrection. I have many close friends that are super Jesus, and they're trying to get me to believe, and I really wanted to believe, and I'm like, man, that's hard to believe that he resurrected. And when Mel Gibson brought up the shroud's basically the receipt of the resurrection. It's the front and the back of him, because he was wrapped. It was wrapped around like that. So there's the whole back of him, the back of his head, his back, the front of him. And it's not only is it a negative image on linen, which is impossible, but it has 3D information where they can make they have the information in the linen that can make a 3D image of Jesus. They don't know. It's the most studied artifact of all time, and no scientists know how they faked it. So either you could look at it 2 different ways. You could look at it like the atheist will still go, just because it's the most studied artifact ever, and no scientists and science. There's like 120 different kinds of science, like particle physicists, nuclear engineer, like anything. All the scientists all studied it, and goes, just because they can't figure out how they faked it doesn't mean it's real. Valid point. But you could also look at it as like, look, nobody could figure out how they faked it in the 1500s. It's got to be real. I'm in that camp. And the latest not carbon dating. They got it's called a like wide angle X-ray. I think that's what it's called, but it's the latest way to date something. It's way more advanced than carbon dating. They just did it last year, and they said 2,000 years old. So boom, end of story. They just redid the dating with wide angle X-ray. I think it's called something like that, wide angle X-ray, and wax. It's and boom, a year ago they go, oh, guess what? It actually is 2,000 years old.
I'll have to check that out, but in my view, particularly where we are in this era, a spiritual path is the most important thing for a human being. So if people are getting a bump off looking at the shroud and getting back on a spiritual path, that's a great thing. Right now, in my view, we're kind of in a spiritual war where there's a lot of darkness in this world trying to become commonplace, so.
Oh yeah, it seems like the world is being run by evil forces. That's what it seems. It doesn't it seem like most governments are under the control of some kind of satanic force, right?
Yep.
It seems like that.
That's why your spiritual path is even more important right now, to stand against this darkness.
Have you heard of the little season?
Yes.
That makes sense to me. When I started looking into the little season, that makes sense to me, because according to the little season, we're in the little season according to Revelations, and that's the time where humans and all nations are run by Satan. Like Satan is let loose to basically test everybody. Like this is a big test. Like the little season is a huge test. Like who is good and who is evil, and are you going to do the right thing, or are you going to do the satanic thing? And it really seems that way, because it seems like our government, it seems to be run by Satan. It looks like that. It doesn't look like.
Have you heard of the Yuga cycles out of India? One of the oldest tracking of times. There's an idea that we're coming out of the dark age right now, and that would also match up in a way. There's a guy named Sri Yukteswar, and he was a realized spiritual man. He was Yogananda's teacher, but Yukteswar's teacher tasked him with writing a book to show the commonality and the spirituality he was brought up in with the Bible, with the Christian religion. So his master told him to do that. Well, the first 12 pages of that book, he describes the Yuga cycles, because he said during the Dark Age, we were so low in our consciousness that the numbers got expanded to ridiculously long periods of time. But in other parts of the world, there's an idea that we're coming out of the so-called Kali Yuga. Some feel we've already come through it and we're in the transition period. Some feel we're right at the doorstep. But there's all these ideas right now trying to address why the world is so damn crazy. And why there's, as you described it, is everyone who runs the world a Satanist? Would you even say such a thing in the 80s? Would that have even seemed like it was possible? Or even in the 90s for that matter?
Yeah.
But now you could ask almost anyone, it's no secret. There's darkness.
And part of that little season theory is that Jesus already came back, because supposedly we're waiting for the return of Jesus. But if you look at, there's a YouTube channel called Understanding Conspiracies. It's that has all this information. And again, these are just theories, but to me, they make sense. He's saying that if you look at like what Matthew and all the Gospels and Luke and everybody, and they're all saying that Jesus was coming back in their lifetime. There's nothing in the Bible that says he's coming back 2,000 years later. It was all within their lifetime. So according to this theory, Jesus came back already, like in 77 AD or something like that, and ruled for 1,000 years with no Satan. It was this realm that we live in was run by Jesus and his apostles. They all got crucified just like him. They all got slaughtered for.
That's the history that's being scrubbed and hidden away. That's the idea.
So it makes sense that all these crazy palaces and all this architecture that no way could have been built, not even in the 1800s. And they're saying it was built in the 1200s, like these palaces and these gigantic, and it's like these Romanesque Greek style buildings all over the place, in Vietnam, in Brazil, all over the world. And to me, it makes sense if Jesus did return in the apostles' lifetime and made them kings in this Jesus kingdom that went on for 1,000 years. And then after the 1,000 years, they let Jesus, according to Revelations, it's in the Bible, it's in Revelations, Jesus let Satan loose because he had been chained in hell for the 1,000 years of Jesus' reign. And he was let loose to take over and to test everybody. And that's what we're in now. We've been in this little season since like the 1700s. That's
like the book of Job too.
I'm not a Bible expert. I just I watch a lot of videos on the little season, and the Bible verses, are part of these videos, and they put them up, and no one seems to dispute them. I'm not a Bible expert. I've never read the Bible, but when they take these verses out of the Gospels and everything, and you read them, and like if it really said that, I mean. The apostles are saying that Jesus said he was coming back in their lifetime. He already came back. So to me, that explains these free energy. And if Jesus was the king and did rule for 1,000 years, that would explain these cathedrals and these power stations and this insane architecture. Like angels had to have built these things. No way horse and buggy people built these palaces. When there's nobody, and then you look at the West Coast, San Francisco, LA, all the way up Oregon and Washington, there's all these buildings and these structures that there's a theory that it was all Tartarian. And Russia used to be Tartaria. And then there's all these Tartarian structures all along the West Coast. How were they built in the 1800s? Wasn't it the gold rush times and cowboys and Indians? There was supposedly, according to the mainstream narrative in regards to history, it was the Wild West. It was like wooden shacks and cowboys and Indians and these little ghost towns. How the hell these incredible structures these cathedrals? You go to downtown LA, they're everywhere in downtown LA. Like, holy shit, who built these? Nobody standing in front of Home Depot built that shit. I'll tell you that much. And they built it when? In 1820? How did they do that? There was no power tools. So it's fascinating. You're talking about the awakening. I think that's what's going on now, the awakening. There's a YouTube channel called My Lunch Break. And this guy, he's investigating all these structures all over the world, and it's the best channel out there. And John Levi was the first guy on YouTube that got me into the Tartaria conspiracy. There's so many levels of it.
Didn't he do Star Forts, John Levi, or something? Because I think I remember that.
Oh yeah, Star Forts are part of the whole scene. I mean, there's Star Forts everywhere. They're everywhere. It seems like since the 1800s, they've tried to erase the old world. That's what, supposedly there's a theory that's what wars are about. Wars are about just destroying the technology. They destroyed the bells. You know about
Yeah, I did an episode on the bells. Yeah, they rounded them up, turned them into munitions. Those were very important, and they were everywhere. They were healing.
Yes,
they're not what we have now. So have you ever been to New England, like in a New England cemetery, and seen the old headstones that are carved out of granite?
No, I haven't.
So where I am, I grew up in San Diego, but here there's old stuff. Well, old compared to what's in San Diego. And there's you'll see these stone angels, and you're like, who could even carve that? Well, they had this documentary was made on these guys that were descendants of people brought from Italy when Westerly, Rhode Island was providing the best granite in the world. That's where a lot of the Civil War monuments were supposedly made from, that Westerly granite. But it was the last two dudes. These dudes were so old they could barely hold their chisels anymore. They walked through and said, oh, Bob or Jim carved that, but there's no more. So the point I'm making is there's no one even around that can repair all that carved granite everywhere. It's like, if you can carve granite right now, you could write your own ticket. You could say,
Yeah.
I'm $1,000 an hour, and they'd pay you, because those were the last dudes that had any skill in doing it. How is it that we're so advanced, and you look back at these things and we're all living in boxes and rectangles in the angles of sorrow with drywall from China?
You know, one thing that I noticed about, because every city I go into now, I'm like, I do a lot of traveling for work. And one thing that I always got my eyes open for, old school buildings that are, you know, like cathedrals and like just these mega churches, like in the middle of nowhere, like El Paso. You go to El Paso, like, who built this shit? And I was talking to a friend about this. He knew nothing about Tartaria, knew nothing about. He would see like a cathedral. You know, they're in Manhattan. You go to Manhattan and look at these cathedrals, and like in the middle of Manhattan, you're like,
I saw St. Patrick's. Yep.
Like, who the fuck built this shit? But nobody even thinks about it. And now once you get hip to it, now you start noticing it everywhere. And I was telling a friend of mine, you know, just we were talking about the Tartaria thing, and he was like, "Yo, that makes sense." He goes, because he said, I think he said Rhode Island. He goes, in Rhode Island, there was like a big thing in his city, small town, where they were trying to remodel this old cathedral, but nobody knew how to do it. So it was all over the newspaper. They were trying to figure out, like, can we get some people to, like, we need to fix this and remodel this, and no one had any idea. And that was the story. And that reminded him of that. He goes, yeah, it's like, we haven't built it. When was the last time we built a cathedral? You know, I mean, not that we couldn't with today's.
But wait a minute.
Could, but no one.
They could build it, but could they put the sacred those were functional buildings. Yeah. They were resonators. They were healing chambers. Even we can't even make the stained glass colors, and those are frequencies coming through that light. Yeah. So maybe we could copy something, kind of, sort of, but we couldn't design, or at least the common construction companies don't have the sacred geometry and everything else that went into it.
Yeah. You look at Vegas, like Caesar's Palace. That looks pretty dope. You know what I mean? And the Venetian looks pretty, like, amazing. But you're right, it's just a copy, and there's no there's no
functionality, for one thing. These buildings, like, Eric Dollard talks about that too. He did some work on the idea of the resonating abilities of some of those old structures. And when you hear him talk, you just sit there with your mouth hanging open at what we lost. In episode 595 on CRROW777radio.com, we covered the bells. Now, anyone who's interested in anything we're talking about, go look at what happened to the bells. There was a worldwide sweep to get rid of those old bells, and people are now starting to realize through cymatics and other things, those were healing things. Those were important. Almost every town square had bells. And I'm not talking the bells we have now. I'm talking ones that were made like the cathedrals were made. They were functional. The ringing of that bell was more than just a sound. It was designed. It was in with the forces of nature. And there was undeniably a worldwide sweep, and we're told a lot of those bells were turned into guns and other things like that. So these healing devices that were in darn near every town center, or many town centers, are turned into weapons. So we go from a society that wants a healing bell around their town to a society that wants to make a howitzer.
Yeah, that sounds pretty satanic to me, right?
Yeah.
You're taking these healing frequencies, these healing frequency machines, and turning them into killing machines. Like, that's satanic right there. There was this experiment done. I don't know if it's real. I don't have any proof. It makes sense to me. But they somehow put some electrodes on people's brains, and they figured out that every emotion was a certain frequency. Fear had its own frequency. Joy had its frequency. Love had its frequency. And they could see it. That whenever the people that were feeling a certain emotion, they could look at their computer screen and go, oh, that's fear, or that's laughter, that's joy, love. And do you know, if you had to guess, what emotion had the highest frequency, what would you guess?
Love.
That's what everybody would say. That's what I would say, love. But it wasn't. It was authenticity. And when I heard that initially, I was like, authenticity? Talk about a bullshit ass experiment. It's got to be love. You're like, love's got to be the highest frequency. It just makes sense. But then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, damn, what does authenticity really mean? It means the truth. Like you're being truthful. And what does it say in the Bible? The truth is the light. The light is the truth. Like, why would, like, I never understood, like, the truth is the light. Like, why are you talking about telling the truth? The truth is the light. Like, how about love is the light? How about unconditional love is the light? But the Bible, I mean, and there's this giant church by my gym, and it says, the truth is the light. Huge. And that's the thing you're going to put up. The truth is the light. And it makes sense now. If this, I don't know if that experiment was real or not.
I could make a suggestion. I could make a suggestion. Is it possible that in the culture we are that now makes howitzers instead of bells, that we don't know the full meaning of love temporarily?
That's true.
Maybe that's part of what this vibrational shift and this spiritual upgrade and conscious upgrade, maybe that's partially what it's about. Maybe we are leaving a dark age and we're going to start heading back to knowing what actual love means, not a culture that was raised on 60s music. If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with, or hey Joe, where are you going with the gun in your hand? Well, I'm going to shoot my old lady. I caught her sleeping with another man. Yeah. Our idea of love may be far away from what potentially love could be. Maybe our vibration's just not high enough.
Yeah, man, you could love murder, so yeah, love is like, when you look at it that way, you're like, love could be twisted into different things, but the truth is the truth, right? The truth is, you can't deny the truth. There's the, and it makes sense. Like when, for instance, cheating on your spouse, right? Like, is the cheating on your, like having sex with another person besides your spouse, is that the sin, or is it the vibration? Because what is cheating on your spouse? Cheating on your spouse is being unfaithful. For all your 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu merchandise, please visit 10thplanetjj.com/shop. We also got a Look Into It t-shirt that just dropped. Thank you very much for your support. So unfaithful is the opposite of authenticity. So maybe it's not the act of doing, it's the frequency that you give off. You know what I mean? It's not what you say, it's the frequency in what you say, because the universe doesn't need to understand your language or what your words mean, but they need to understand what the frequency is from whatever you're saying. You could be saying something in Chinese or Vietnamese, but it's gonna, if it's good, it's gonna have a certain frequency. If it's truthful, it's gonna have a certain frequency. If it's unfaithfulness, that's gonna have a certain frequency, and makes sense that it's a low frequency. So it's like we're just frequency machines, and the way we're designed is whatever is going on in our life, it really doesn't matter. The details don't matter. All that matters is what is the output that you as a nanobot electromagnetic machine is giving off. Like, what frequency? Is it a high frequency or is it a low frequency? And that might have a lot to do with how your life goes. If you're living in a high frequency most of the time, maybe good high frequency things happen to you. And if you're constantly in a low frequency, frequency is just like the speed, right? It's just the speed of the loop. So every sound is a frequency, a different frequency. In music, now it makes sense. Like, music is, every note is a frequency. It's a different frequency. Every color is a different frequency. So everything. Yeah. So
Cymatics kind of shows you what vibration does. First time you see Cymatics, you think it's cool until you stop to realize, I just saw form manifest out of nothing. You see a plate with sand on it, a frequency touches the plate, and all of a sudden geometry is there. That is form coming out of nothing because of frequency. I just saw a clip a day or two ago where a young lady has a giant tuning fork. I don't have perfect pitch, but I think it might have been a D, the musical note D, but it's a giant tuning fork, and she's by a little body of water, and she hits this giant thing. It must weigh 5 or 6 pounds. It's a giant tuning fork. And she's resonating it, and this turtle comes out of the water, goes all the way over to her. She puts the fork down, and he follows it. Just follows that vibrating fork. And then he finds a little piece of food on the ground, and he walks over and puts it on her shoe. A wild turtle.
That's on YouTube?
To demonstrate exactly what you're saying. This resonation of frequency attracted a wild animal who came straight up to a human who they would, like you've seen turtles, like a painted turtle, I think it was. You get near them, they jump in the water and they flee. It came out of the water, went right up to her, followed her, and then it looks like he's offering her a little snack before he eventually heads back into the water. And that's all based on him sensing a frequency that overrode his wild instinct to hide from a human being, to jump in the water and swim away, and to come out of the water and actually go offer her food.
That's on YouTube? I would love to see that right now. Rose, do you think you could pull that up on YouTube? If you could find that, that would be awesome.
She's wanting to punch out. Do you have time to try that, Rose, real quick? She's got things she needs to do.
What should I search for?
Big tuning fork turtle. That's my best guess.
and you know how they say cats. I have 3 cats, and you know how they purr and then they lay on your chest and then they purr.
That's healing.
Yeah, people think people have said and theorized that that's they're trying to heal you and trying to absorb your negative energy with their purring. And what's purring? It's just a certain vibration. And that, to me, that makes sense. It makes sense. That's probably why cats were worshipped in Egypt.
Here it is.
Let's check this out.
Should I play the audio?
Yeah, go ahead. You can hear it resonate. See, the turtle would normally be fleeing from her, but she's walking up and that thing's already resonating. She's going to hit it again. Look at that. There's the power of vibration.
Wow.
That animal would normally flee, but it gets better. He follows her around and then he finds a little, I don't know whether it's a leaf or a piece of food, but he puts it on her foot, I think.
It's giving me the chills, man. Chills are a vibration.
Cymatics is one of the most important knowledge bases that we temporarily lost. When we get back to Cymatics, the world will change in some very positive ways, providing the howitzer makers don't get it.
Yeah,
look at that.
Those plates with sand that are hit with a certain sound, certain frequency, and then they turn into these amazing geometric patterns. I mean, that right there is magic right there. I mean,
form created out of thin air because of vibration.
Yes.
Here he is. Watch. He's going to pick up a piece of something. Oh, maybe not yet. In a minute, he will. That's a big painted turtle, I think. We have them around here, but I don't see him that big. He just keeps following that. He's just so attracted. Kudos to that girl because she seemed to have known what she was doing. She already recognized the power of it. I think he's going to pick something up here and try to put it on her foot. There it is. Watch this.
There he goes. He's got some in his mouth now.
He says, thank you.
Wow.
All you need is love, not the Beatles kind.
Exactly. Not
see that? Touch that right to her foot.
Amazing.
Love it.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Rose. Do you want to see anything else? Because she wants to get on to some other things she's got going.
Okay. Thanks, Rose. I think we're good. You got anything else, Crow? Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, there's a live stream coming on the 13th that we're going to do on CRROW777 on YouTube, but on CRROW777radio.com, I just this past week filmed the best solar footage I've managed so far, And all the membership of CRROW777radio.com gets exclusive access to my work. In other words, I don't post it to YouTube anymore. I should tell you, when I put the lunar wave up, not only did it get censored at times, but like a year or two later, YouTube sent me a thing that informed me every video I'd uploaded to their platform, they had rights to, and they could use it for whatever they wanted, to include commercials. I don't put my hard work there. I put maybe examples, but the real work is protected on CRROW777radio.com, and free speech is protected there as well. But those videos are going to be coming out shortly. And that's the main hub for everything. I maintain a private server to be able to avoid all the censorship and free speech infringement.
If the before I let you go, if you want to take a deep dive into the Shroud, there's a video by Dr. John Campbell. He's like no religious. He's not a pastor. He's not a priest or anything. He actually gained a lot of popularity during the scamdemic when he's a British doctor who went against the COVID narrative and got hammered and got canceled. Dr. John Campbell, The Shroud. Just look, and it's like 45 minutes, and he breaks it all down. He breaks it down, and that's the first video I saw on The Shroud, and that got me hooked. And then there's a nuclear engineer called Robert Rucker, and he breaks it down at the nuclear level. I'll check it out. Pretty fascinating.
So are you saying, was Joe non-religious and then he saw the Shroud and that sparked him back into spirituality? Is that what you were telling me, or no?
Yeah, dude, Joe goes to church now. He's all in.
Good for Joe.
That's like a big thing going on. Joe has the biggest podcast in the world, and
good for him.
He's a Christian now. He's and he wasn't before. You could look at old episodes of JRE, and he's like bashing
it had a similar effect on you too, because you were stuck on certain points and they don't bother you anymore.
Oh man. And one thing that really got me with Jesus, like my friends would say, you just got to ask. You got to have a personal relationship with Jesus. You got to talk to him. You got to ask him to reveal himself to you. And then I saw this video of a guitar player in Korn, the band Korn, and they're like, they did a lot of drugs and they did a lot of crazy shit, and that they're the epitome of rock stars, And he was talking about how he hit rock bottom with the drugs. He's super famous, super rich, but he's ready to kill himself. And he asked Jesus to reveal himself to him, and he did. And now this guy's a famous born again Christian. He's all about Jesus now. He's still in Korn. They still go on the road, but he's all Jesus. And so I swear, this was maybe 3 months ago, maybe. 2-3 months ago. I'm driving home from work, and I get out of work like around it was like midnight, 12:30 midnight, and I'm driving down the 10 freeway. I'm going west on the 10, and then I go north on the 405. And right when I got on that 405 north, I asked Jesus, I go, show me something. Show me that you're real. I want to follow you. Show me. And within 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, it's foggy. But I'm driving. When you're on the freeway at night, the oncoming traffic with their headlights, you don't notice this, but it actually blinds you. And if the cars in front of you didn't have their lights on, didn't have their tail lights on, you wouldn't see them. There could be a car just parked in the middle of the freeway, and by the time you saw it, if it had its lights out, you'd go right into it. It'd be too late, and you'd be dead. You realize that, right? Yeah. So I'm driving down the freeway, and I just asked Jesus to reveal himself to me, and within minutes, I'm driving in the slow lane. And 2 lanes over, I look over real quick. I'm like, oh my God, there's a car turned around, spun out with its lights out. Totally didn't see it. And a split second later, on the next lane next to me, the first car was 2 lanes, turned around facing me head on, but 2 lanes over. And then a split second later, another car with its lights off spun out in the lane right next to me. And I went like this. Oh shit. Oh my God. I was in the lucky lane. If I was in one of those other lanes, I wouldn't be here right now, or I'd be like hooked up to a life support. I was doing, I was doing 70 miles an hour. And And then the next day, it freaked me out, right? And there was already people on the side, on their phones calling 911, and I didn't even stop. I was just like, I saw that they had help, and I was just so freaked out. I just fucking kept going. And then I couldn't sleep that night. I'm like, is that just a coincidence, or was that Jesus talking to me? And then on the way to work the next day, right where the area where the cars were turned around and I almost died, on the side of the freeway, there's this random little sign stuck on the side of the freeway, just like someone just put it there. And there's a yellow sign that says Jesus
saves.
How did you know that?
Right now, there's nothing more important for a human being to have a spiritual path. That's how I know that.
Yeah. I was like, what?
And I'll tell you, yeah, there's darkness and it's pushing. And whether you want to look at the little season or whatever it is, what it comes down to, the nuts and bolts of it is that darkness wants to slave you out. Darkness wants you to give up what you know to be right, correct, and true. And they want you to be materialistic and accept things that should be unacceptable. And so anytime, in my view, a spiritual path is the most important thing for a human being to maintain. Right now, even more so, because we're in an era shift. And it is my point of view that the era we're going into is going to be more amazing and higher minded than we can even imagine from the world that we've known. The new era, when it gets here, will probably be more about service to others as opposed to the materialism and service to self that I grew up knowing. And I do everything I can every day of my life to maintain a spiritual life, to do and accept what I know to be true, correct, right, and good, and to stand against things that I find are unacceptable. And there's plenty of unacceptable things to stand against right now.
Yeah. And, whether you believe in Jesus or God, whether you believe in it or not, the fact remains that the people running this world believe in Satan. So the people that run the world, they have access to all the knowledge. They're hiding it from us. They're erasing history. What I think is probably the best meat slice in the game, it's called a ROW drag. Super simple, awesome combo. Before we get to the truck, throw a little pass on top of that. You know what I mean? So we're gonna get really good at that truck transition. How about you get really ninja with the ROW drag? The knee slice. Push him down, butterfly, boom, bam, boom. Here. 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 And then the fishnet, knee to the stomach, low the handle, break the frames, and boom. Pull this out, grab my forearm, pop, pop. That's all the best shit from Twister Side Control right there in one throw. You guys want to go back and forth a little bit? Ready? Let's go. They have all the knowledge, and they're really into Satan. So whether you believe in Jesus or God or not, they believe in Jesus or God. Because how could you believe in Satan without believing in God? How could you believe in Satan without believing in Jesus? And the one thing, people always say like, oh, but why would God, if God was so righteous, why would he want people to worship him? Why would he want people to, submit to him? Like that doesn't make it, it sounds egotistical or whatever. And, he had me thinking that there's a point there, but I'm thinking, what is worship and what is like submitting to someone, like being someone's servant? Maybe that gives off a high frequency. Maybe that's what it's about because the ego, we know the ego is can destroy. The ego is bad generally. Sometimes the ego is good. Sometimes, it makes you a better person to want to be a good person because of your ego. But generally, egos destroy humans. And so what's the opposite of ego is being a servant and submitting.
Right.
So maybe the act of submitting and worshiping, maybe that's a high frequency and it's about the frequency. You know what I mean?
I can tell you this thing that one of the most highly evolved spiritual people I've met in this lifetime told me this tale. He told me, you're very lucky to be a man. We have free will. We have all these things. We can make all these decisions. He said on higher levels, I don't know if he used the word dimensions, there are very high spiritual beings that have no free will. And I said, well, how can that be? That doesn't sound right. And he said, well, consider this. If there was a creator God and you got to a level where you were almost one with that, you wouldn't want to make decisions because you've already been shown the way everything works and the way it works correctly. So that's just what you want to do. You don't want to deviate from that. And I thought about that, and it's an interesting idea. And then I thought about the animals here. It's kind of like that, not that we're like animals, but the way animals act, they don't make decisions like we do or pre-plan. Some do, but mostly not. They just work the way they know they can live, right? The way the system is, they're going to act accordingly. And so we do have free will, and people will call this a prison planet. Maybe they're not far from wrong, but the truth is we do have free will. And with those choices, you can do things that are true, correct, and good. And for a long time now, we've been surrounded by war, by vulgar movies, vulgar TV. Drugs were introduced in the 60s. Now they've been mainstreamed into our world, and we've been surrounded by all these very materialistic, low vibrational ideas, but we're kind of at a change point, and I think everyone can feel it. And while we don't like change, change can be very difficult. I keep my eyes on the prize in the future. I accept that we're going to come into a better world, and I accept that a light will always outdo darkness. You could be in the darkest, biggest room in the world, and if you spark one little spark, that darkness flees to every corner. So if you get a stable flame, all the more.
Wow, that was beautiful. CRROW, thank you very much for doing this. We're going to do it again soon. And it was awesome, man. This is a great podcast. Thank you. And I hope you have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And anyone who's interested in my work, it's all at CRROW777radio.com, and members get free access to everything, including my current solar work. I'm crossing my fingers that this will be the season this year where I get my high-end tools on our binary sun. With that, I want to wish everybody out there a happy, healthy, and higher-minded new era. Cheers, man. Thank you so much, Eddie.
Thank you. Good night.
The Jiu-Jitsu Dojo is the ultimate training ground for life. Jiu-Jitsu will accelerate the evolution of your being, your consciousness, your soul. Through this amazing art, you will prove to yourself that you can master anything you set your mind to.
Happy birthday, Eddie Bravo!
I leave for Brazil tomorrow.
Are you the Fear Factor guy?
I'm like 6 pounds over. Time to sweat it out. Just imagine someone that has no idea how different your game is.
I'll tell you what this weekend was, man. It was a culmination point where all your hard work comes to like one great moment in time. You showed that you're a fucking champion, guy who goes against convention. You created your own shit and figured interesting ways to get around problems in jiu-jitsu. It shows you that great things are possible if you work hard, if you dedicate yourself, and you use your creativity, and you push through. Your own human potential just goes up.
My 10th Planet Association has grown rapidly to over 70 academies worldwide, and their curriculums are all synced to 10th Planet headquarters located in downtown Los Angeles. I'm Eddie Bravo. I hope to see you on the mats.